What's up everybody? Now before I get into this video I would like to apologise for not recording and uploading this video as of when I said I was going to, which was December 31st 2024, New Year's Eve, because I said it was going to be the last video of 2024, and that I was seeing the movie that day with my mate, so I was gonna have some time in the evening to record the video and upload it, but then I didn't end up having time because the mate was staying overnight, and I didn't have any time between then or the 2nd of January. So now, as of recording this video and publishing this video, which is the 3rd of January 2025, it's been the only time I've been able to record the video, which is the worst part, because publishing the video isn't as hard to do because I can easily publish a video. But I've got to find that I don't need a lot of time to do that, because I can do it, upload a video whilst I'm doing something else if there's stuff I need to do. That the uploading video isn't the hard part, which is why I'm able to upload the videos after recording them most of the time. I've worked it out so I can do it that way, so I can record a video at the same day I record it, upload it. However, I need to find time to actually record the video, so it's been a problem actually trying to find time recording it, but I've managed to get some time, so here we are. So that's that. Apologies first. And I did say on my last video, which was the Wallace and Gromit movie review, was that not only that this would be the next video releasing on that date, but I would have a message, so it's kind of an awkward message to carry over because it doesn't really make sense, because the message was just going to be basically wishing everyone, of my subscribers and any who watch my videos, any of them, or all of them, whether it's all of them or just the odd few, or just happen to click on this video, I would have wished them a happy new year, and then told them the next video for 2025, first one of that. But now because of that, plans have changed, so I hope you had a happy new year, but this is now going to be the first official video of 2025, so yeah. So let's get into it. So this video is a movie review of Mufasa, the Lion King. So if you haven't seen the movie yet, I would see the movie first and then come back to this video. If not, then that is up to you. Okay, so let's talk about this. Mufasa, the Lion King. So this was an interesting one because Disney's they've done a lot of Lion King projects now. This is the 8th Lion King project in terms of media. I say that in general, it's like the 11th project they've done, because they've done the original film in Lion King, like the original animated Lion King film. That's the first project they've done a sequel to that, The Lion King 2, Simba's Pride. Then they've done a third one which has 2 names, which is like Lion King 1.5 and Lion King 3 or something. And it's with Timon and Pumbaa, and it tells the story of Timon and his backstory and then how he met Pumbaa and all that. They've also done a live action remake of The Lion King back in 2019, still called The Lion King. And then they've obviously got the Lion Guard Disney Junior TV show for younger audiences, which is now on Disney Plus. Then earlier, sort of years ago, they'd done this weird like Timon and Pumbaa series. I don't know what it was, but yeah. And then for Walt Disney World Florida, I don't know if they've done it for Disneyland California, but I think it was only for Florida. They done these safety videos on the bus for the kids to watch on the way there, and they put them on the televisions as well. basically explaining what you should do on buses and like the trains and how to stay safe around Disney. basically, and it was with Timon and Pumbaa. It was like their Safety Smart videos, and I think they've done some which are just as well as there's like an app with it as well, and I think they've done like a general one as well with it. So stuff like when you're out and about anywhere, not just sort of at Disney, like if you're out about and there's a stranger, don't go up to them, that sort of thing, alone, that sort of thing. And it was aimed at kids to make sure they're staying safe, but it was a nice little thing that they'd done, and they were comedic. I remember from when I first went back in 2013, because it was sort of aimed at my age group, because I was like back then. So yeah, and it's really good at that, but that's sort of the film side of things they've done, and obviously now Mufasa The Lion King. Plus they've also got the Broadway and West End show of The Lion King, and then at Walt Disney World in Animal Kingdom they've got a Lion King show called Festival of the Lion King. So it's great. But so yeah, now this, in terms of movies, this is the fifth movie that they've done, second live action movie they've done now, and how it's set is it is set before, it's live action and it's set before the first live action movie, and it builds the story of how Mufasa and Scar became brothers, and that's what the movie is. It's diving into how Mufasa and Scar are actually brothers and how they're not blood related, and Mufasa himself is actually orphaned, is an orphan, and then that's when he would then join Scar, who is then back then known as Taka. He's then known as so he sort of Taka takes him in as a brother, calls him his brother, but he is still seen as an outsider, and so Scar's actually supposed to be king, and then Mufasa takes over from it, and then we find out that Taka is Scar, and it explains all of that in the movie, and it's done through loads of songs, as naturally, because it's a musical and Disney love their musicals. The music, I believe, was sort of written by Lin-Manuel Miranda, who obviously has worked with Disney before, because he's done the music for the soundtrack for Moana 2, Mary Poppins Returns. He also plays Jack the Lamplighter in Mary Poppins Returns, and now Mufasa the Lion King. I think he might have been working on it as well, and the Lion King one, but more as a composer, because obviously the first live action Lion King, it wasn't new songs, it was the original songs from the animated film being sung in live action, but this one was brand new filmed, or not brand new film, it was, but because it wasn't a live action, a remake, it was brand new songs added to it, and although it wasn't a brand new idea because it's based off of a film that already exists, but it's not been a remake of a film, which means it was completely new songs that he worked on. And the songs were good, don't get me wrong, and it was nice to watch a Disney film, a live action, which was actually a good film that I enjoyed. It wasn't anything like Pinocchio, which I personally enjoyed, but didn't make the best amount of money. Same with Peter Pan and Wendy, which is the live action Peter Pan movie that they done for Disney Plus. I personally really enjoyed it, but a lot of people didn't, and it didn't make that much money for them. And it's also nice to see a new movie for Disney, which is I believe is going to make money, especially when it comes on to hits Disney Plus. A lot of people will watch it then as well. And definitely think it's going to be better than the latest latest Disney movie, which I believe was Wish. That had new songs, but they weren't the best. I did like the better songs were better in my opinion, but they still weren't the greatest. There's a villain, the villain Kiros or Kieran. I've forgotten his name. He's like a big white lion voiced by Mads Mikkelsen, who's played Caecilius in Doctor Strange. He was voicing this one this lion. Um, and he had his own song, something like, where he's basically talking about how he'd kill not people, but the lions, and get to what he wanted, and it was like saying, and a lot of the words, I don't know if it, like, a lot of the lyrics were him just going, bye bye, like that, and it's like, that was it. It was a good song, don't get me wrong, I did really enjoy that song, and that was my favourite song from the movie, but it felt like a budget version of Be Prepared. It's like he wanted to do Be Prepared, but they didn't want to do too much of it, because obviously that has been seen, that is Scar's song, not, and this character isn't related to Scar at all, or back then as known as Taka. So the songs, and there's another song that actually Taka was singing to Mufasa, and I think that both Mufasa might have had a part in it as well. And it's like, the song goes, I always wanted a brother, stuff like that, but it just felt a bit dodgy, a bit of dodgy singing from Taka, because he was singing, he had a great voice throughout the, talking through the film, and then singing the songs, he had a great voice. It's just that that one part of that song about him going on about how he always wanted a brother, instead of singing it normally, it was like, and there's a lot of sort of, it's being memed about quite a lot right now on the internet. I always wanted a brother, and it's like really weird and bad, and which was annoying, because I personally felt that the actor who was voicing Taka done a great job in the speaking roles and in the singing. It was just that part of that song, it did not go well at all. So, and it felt really awkward listening to that part, because I'd seen that part all over TikTok before I'd seen the movie. But yeah, but they did have some good songs, like I said, the villain song that, like, Kiros or whatever his name, the White Lion, voiced by Mads Mikkelsen. His song I thought was the best one out of the movie. It was my favourite, and it was a good song, but like I said, it had felt like it was heavily influenced by Be Prepared. So yeah, now obviously the voice actors for the movie, these were completely different voice actors for the majority of the film. They still kept Beyonce in as Nala, and Donald Glover as Simba, and the Seth Rogen was returned as Pumbaa, and Bill Eichner returned as Timon, and whoever voices Rafiki returned as Rafiki, but they were it. And Simba and Nala only had a short scene at the, like, through the scenes they were with them in, they weren't in it a lot, and they didn't have a lot of speaking roles in it, which is out of all those scenes anyway, which is fair enough, and I have no complaints with that, because the movie wasn't about them, it was about Mufasa and Scar, or as he was known there, Taka, but we still had Rafiki and Timon and Pumbaa. They were the most sort of, from the original cast that they brought back, they were the original. I say the original, obviously not from the animated, but they're from the live action ones. So they brought them on the original live action remake, brought them back, and they had quite a few scenes where they were speaking, and it fitted them, because the way the trailers were going, it seemed weird. It was like, well, why are these in it? And they're in the trailers a lot, so they're going to be in the film. So does that mean they knew Mufasa when he was a young cub? Like, how does that work? Because they've never heard of him when they saw Simba, and why wouldn't they be invited to Simba's coronation? Surely, that sort of thing. And that was never, It was like that with the animated film and the live action remake. But it's not like they changed that sort of storyline where you can see in the live action remake they sort of alluded to stuff with Scar, like that sort of stuff. Like there was something not being told, but whereas in the animated one it didn't dive into that. But it was in Mufasa the Lion King, the trailers, it showed them off, and I was confused. I was like, I'm excited. I was excited to see it, but I was confused why they were in the trailer so much. I was like, that doesn't add up because the live action remake, they didn't know who Mufasa was, and in the original animated one, they didn't know who Mufasa was. So I was like, how does that make sense? When I saw the movie, it did make sense. It was the fact, and I saw more of the trailers than I was like, actually, I think this is how they're going to do it, and it was how I thought they were going to do it. Where in the movie, they were in it, but it was because they weren't in the main. It was basically they were being told a story whilst we were telling the story. Originally, I thought they were going to be the ones telling the story, but they were told it as well. What happens is at the start of the movie, Simba and Nala have to go away, like somewhere, I don't know why. And his daughter Kiara is being looked after. Actually, I do because it's to welcome a new baby, a cub. I just remembered. But so, whilst Simba and Nala sort of go away, he leaves Kiara with Timon and Pumbaa. And Timon and Pumbaa are going to want to tell her a story, and Simba's like, don't tell her any stories, you'll scare her. And they're like, okay, we won't, when they know full well they're going to. And they're like, don't worry, we will. And then, right when they were within earshot of Simba, and he's like, guys, I can hear you. Yeah, and that's sort of the comedic part, and it's, it's very, so it's funny. That I wouldn't say overly funny, but it's still funny. And then they're looking after Kiara, and then that's where Rafiki then comes in and he tells the story, and then it's showing us basically how it happened, and then there's scenes where Timon and Pumbaa, it jumps back to them and because they're interrupting the story, and their scenes with Timon and Pumbaa are so funny. There's a thing where they start singing Hakuna Matata, but instead of that, they changed the word from Matata to Mufasa, so it was Hakuna Mufasa, and it was stupid but so funny. Just showing how silly and dumb and funny they are. Like Timon and Pumbaa, and that was amazing. And Rafiki getting annoyed and Kiara getting annoyed because they wanted to hear the story, and it was so funny. And then Timon and Pumbaa were getting peed off as well with the story because they were like, oh, when are we gonna come into it? Why can't we get into it, when it was never going to explore them? It wasn't going to have them in sort of the story because they weren't, but to do with how Mufasa and Scar met. And it was funny. It was really funny, and Rafiki, it went between that, and a lot of it was basically how we saw the film, but then did have scenes of them interrupting it, so that's why it went back to them, because we were sort of at the point of view or POV of Kiara, so what we were seeing, the parts of the scenes where Mufasa and Scar growing up together, and Sarabi was in it as well, those scenes we had there when we were watching it, that we were watching it as Kiara would have been told. So the stuff we were seeing, Kiara, that's what Rafiki was telling Kiara and Timon and Pumbaa. So when it went back to showed Timon and Pumbaa with Kiara and Rafiki, it's because that would be when they interrupted. So it makes sense more when you watch it than when you try and explain it. And it was a good movie, and it was a fun movie, and it was funny in scenes, and it showed how stupid Zazu was as well as Rafiki. I mean, Rafiki was really, really stupid and dumb, and it's like that he couldn't walk. It explains also sort of the feud, mainly the feud, but it explains obviously how Mufasa and Scar grew up together. It also explains how he got his scar and the name Scar, and how he was different from, he was actually originally called Taka and now he's Scar. Also explained how Rafiki got his stick, where Rafiki, he couldn't walk properly, but so he sort of limped a lot of the time, and he was mad. Like, they showed how mad Rafiki was, because I must admit, with the live action remake, I thought they made Rafiki, didn't make him as mad, portray him as mad as he was in the original animated, but we could see he was mad when he was younger, at least. And because there was a scene where he was sort of nearly fell down and he's on a tree and he's hanging by the tree. He's like, and he's saying, "Thank you, my friend." So I thought it was then going to show us someone who saved him, and it panned the camera up and it was just a branch. And then that broke anyway, and he fell, but he used that as his sort of the stick he's got, that he uses as like a walking stick type thing. That's how he got his stick. And I was like, oh, okay. So that was very interesting. And there's a scene where Zazu was like, "I have an announcement. It is morning. End of announcement," or end of report, something like that. It was stupid and funny. And Zazu was seen as a bit stupid at times, but not throughout the whole time he was in it. And it was more showing Rafiki and that. And it, like I said, Sarabi was in it as well. And it explained everything, all of that. Yeah. And basically it said the way it was that Mufasa had his own mum and dad. It was a family of three. And then there was a flood. They'd finally got some rain in this waterhole. So he's playing and running around it and all that. But then it turned into a flood, and he's in the sea, in the water at this point, and his dad is trying to find him, who I believe was voiced by Keith David, who voices Facilier, I believe. Or it's the actor who voices Facilier, Dr. Facilier, and Princess and Frog was in it, and playing a character, and I believe who was the line, and I believe that was Mufasa's dad. But yeah, so he's trying to swim away, and or swim to land, not to shore. He did, and he managed to get there and get to his mum. But then his dad, he got carted off again. Like some wildebeest or elephant or something, basically broke this. Well, he was standing on, and he went down the river and got lost from his parents, and that basically orphaned him. Until he was in the water again, basically, and later, and he's trying to get out, but he can't. And he's managed to cling onto like a stick or something, wrong. And then that's when Tarka's playing around and sees him, and he's like, "I've got a secret. I can't tell you. I'm not supposed to talk to outsiders. I've got a secret to tell you. I can't tell you. And I can't tell you." Mufasa's like, "Come on, tell me." And he's like, "You're gonna get eaten in a minute," because there was like some hungry croc, and Mufasa's like, "I don't like secrets," and all that. Until Tarka's mother then comes to save Mufasa, and I think Tarka didn't realise how much danger he was in on his own as a cub with a hungry croc. Luckily, they didn't feel like fighting the mother. But she said it could have gotten worse, and then she sort of... Originally, at first she's like, he's an outsider, and then she basically heard what had happened, and she took him in as its own cub, but then her husband, Tarka's dad, didn't want him part of the pride, because he's an outsider, and he said something like, "You know what we do to our outsiders, we eat them." And then he made a deal that if Tarka and Mufasa had a race, if Mufasa won, he would get to stay in the pride, but if Tarka won, they would eat Mufasa. Mufasa wouldn't be allowed in the pride, and he would most likely eat him. So they're running, and Mufasa wasn't winning, but Tarka let him win because he wanted him as a brother. He wanted a brother. And that happened. But then Mufasa was forced to be with a lioness, so he also had a great sense of how to hunt. So yeah. But then later on, the white lions come to attack. So Tarka's dad says he wants to protect the bloodline. So he says to Tarka that he needs to run away. And he says to Mufasa, basically Mufasa, and he's in Mufasa. Basically, Mufasa is sort of forever in debt. Oh, not Mufasa. Sorry, Tarka's dad's forever in debt for Mufasa because because the White Lions came to attack, and Mufasa saved both Tarka's mother and Tarka. So he was in debt for that. But then he said when they came to attack, they knew they were coming to attack. So Tarka's dad needed to protect the bloodline of their family, which was only Tarka. So he said to Tarka, you need to get out of here so we can protect the bloodline, so you'll be safe. And he said Mufasa, go with him and make sure and you protect each other, that sort of thing. But he was more like, you need to protect him, Mufasa, and you need to protect Tarka, and it was that sort of side. Whereas Tarka's mum said, you need to both look after each other. It's not safe for Tarka or you, Mufasa, but it's even more dangerous for Tarka, but you can't be out there. You need each other to survive, that sort of thing. So they go off, and they basically outsiders together, Tarka and Mufasa. Then they meet Sarabi and Zazu, team up with them, and then Rafiki comes along. You've got all of them, and then at the end, because Tarka fell in love with Sarabi, and Sarabi found out that it was actually Mufasa because Mufasa basically helped Tarka try and talk to her. It didn't go well, and then what Tarka said something to her about her smelling like duck flowers, not smelling like a duck at first, which was funny as well. She found out that was actually Mufasa smelled it, not Tarka, but he told Tarka, that sort of thing. And they fall in love. So Tarka, by that end, Tarka was really annoyed and upset because he felt not only did Mufasa take his girlfriend away, who he wanted to be his girlfriend away from him, but also the bloodline and his father and all that. So he went to the villain, that white lion guy, and basically said, I'll lead you to him. I want him to pay. But then at the end of it, he feels sorry, so he gets in the way when that big white lion, as McKillen's character, goes to scratch Mufasa. Tarka jumps in the way and gets scratched instead, and that's how he got the scar. So yeah, great. And then he's like, please forgive me. By the end of it, when Mufasa's king, he's like, Tarka's like, please forgive me. And he's like, Mufasa's like, as long as I'm king, he always has a place here. And he said to Tarka, I forgive you, but I'll never utter your name again, because of what you done. And then Tarka was like, okay, then call me Scar. That way I'll remember what I've done, that sort of thing. And that's how he named Scar, which very well. And I did really enjoy the movie. And another thing I liked was towards the start of the movie, when Mufasa was in that sort of being taken away from his parents because he got washed away in like the flood. What I thought was very good was that they played there was a piece of music from the original live action Lion King, and which was from the original animated Lion King they used in that scene, which was the music they played in the scene where Mufasa is killed. And also the look on Mufasa's face as a cub when he was drifted away was mirrored the look on Simba's face when he saw his dad die so much. So it went like that, which was very interesting, and I found that really touching, interesting, and good, to be honest. And it was it's very emotional towards the start, as it was, and it was an emotional film, and I did enjoy it. But so for that, I'm really happy with what they've done with it. However, I will admit, that I do have some criticisms. First of all, the song that Tarka and Mufasa was singing about always wanting a brother, the bit when Tarka was saying brother, he sounded really weird. That sounded off. It's one criticism, but that's just one slight criticism. I've also got the fact that in the film towards the end, like the hyenas were helping them, and they were like all bowing down to Mufasa, calling him king, when they themselves are seen as outsiders, away from all the lions, even Scar, and we've seen that throughout the original Lion King, the live action Lion King, the Lion Guard series, but also like the sequel Lion King 2 and 3. We've seen it through that. So that felt awkward. But my sort of, and I know I've sort of mentioned also this, there's that I've got the slight criticism about the villain song of this movie. It was a great villain song. I did really enjoy it. I really loved it, to be fair, but it just felt too reminiscent of Be Prepared to me. But that's that for myself again. That's personal for me. So that's just a personal thought of mine. But my biggest sort of, I wouldn't say it's an awkward thing to talk about because it's been done so differently. My biggest criticism is the story, not is basically what the film is based on, the storyline of Scar, a lot of how they became brothers, but also how Taka became Scar and got his scar. So how he was changed from his name from Taka to Scar, and how he got the scar. Also, the brothers, because I slight criticism. Now, in terms of, a lot of my criticism for that is the fact of how Scar got his scar and went from how he was actually known as Taka before and then turned to Scar, rather than of how they were actually brothers. That I didn't understand that, because throughout Mufasa, throughout the Lion Guard and the original animated Lion King films, and even the lore behind the animated films is that he has always been seen as, Mufasa and Scar have always been seen as each other's biological brothers. And although the live action remake hinted at some more stuff between stuff that had happened in the past between Mufasa and Scar, which we hadn't actually been hinted or explained through in like the Lion Guard or the original animated Lion King or their sequel films, it still didn't make it feel like they weren't biologically brothers. But for some reason now it was the fact that Mufasa was an orphan, and then took him in and he became a brother to Scar. But there you go. But yeah, so in terms of storyline of basically how Scar was actually called Taka before, and then how he changed it, and how he was called Taka before Scar, and how he got his scar, that has been changed over different. This is the third time we've basically had it explained, and it's each 3 times have different definitions, which on the whole is difficult. So this version, obviously, it shows us that his birth name is Taka because they're not and they're not related at all through blood. He is called Taka. He was named Taka by his mum and dad. And then but then later on, when he feels betrayed by Mufasa, who is like a brother to him, he then basically betrays him and realizes, actually, this isn't right what I've done, it's not fair. So he then goes to protect his brother once more instead of getting scratched, and that's how he gets scratched. And then he says, basically, and wants forgiveness and wants a place. And although Mufasa gives him that, Mufasa says, but because of that, I will never, because of what you've done, I will never utter your name again. So then Taka's like, okay, then call me Scar so I remember what I've done. And that's how he got the name. But then it's before that, in the Lion Guard, he appears as some like weird fire. It's like Scar's face but in fire, and he apparently he led the guard at one point as well, the Lion Guard. That's explained through that. And he says that he got a snake bit his face, and that's what called him Scar. And I believe that's what he changed his name from Tarka to Scar because of that. But then the lore behind the original animated film is that originally Mufasa and Scar were brothers, biological brothers, and so that was that. And Mufasa was born first, and then they had Scar, but their parents liked Mufasa more than Scar, so they wanted to give Mufasa everything, like the heir to the throne. I mean, that was just because he was the firstborn type thing. So he was always going to be the heir to the throne, and then Scar would be the sort of the spare in case anything happened to Mufasa or anything happened to their dad before Mufasa was old enough to be king. So, for example, if their dad died before Mufasa was old enough to be king, or abdicated the throne before he became king, or if Mufasa died either when he was supposed to become king, like after his dad, or like around the same time as his dad, or before his dad died, then it would go to Scar. Or if Mufasa said himself, I don't want to be king, it would then go to Scar. But then that is how it would happen, because the way they make it out is like they will like it happens with sort of English kings, English monarchs. But with Scar, when they had Scar, they really didn't like him, and especially so they called him Taka, which is supposedly Swahili for trash, or that's what it was supposed to mean anyway. Trash. And then they got into a fight. Taka got into a fight with his dad, and his dad scratched him on the face, which is when he then ran away and called or I believe he ran away. I don't know if he ran away or not, but he changed his name to Scar, which explains how Mufasa's always protective over his brother. But it's interesting. That really interesting. But I don't know why they changed it for a third time as well now. But not only with that, it just doesn't make sense. However, there were, like I said, there were scenes I did really enjoy, and Timon and Pumbaa were funny, and I feel like this movie has made me want some stuff more Lion King, but live action Lion King projects. As a couple, I want more. And at the end of the movie, at the end of the movie, we've got two parts of the end of the movie, which are like, you've got towards the end of the movie where you've got where it ends the Mufasa, for explaining what happened to Mufasa and Scar and all that. You see Mufasa's mum is there, but you find out his dad's dead, which was nice. His mum's been brought back. And then at the very end of the film, we see Simba and Nala return, and we find out that Nala has a new baby brother, just like happened in Lion King: Simba's Pride. But obviously, and so she's going to be the next queen of the Pride Lands, apparently. But whether they'll want her to have a king, I don't know. And she'll have a brother. So, yeah. Now, what this has made me want, like I said, there's two projects I want them to do live action for the live action Lion King. I want them to do 2 more movies live action, because we've got the original Lion King remade into live action. Now we've got the prequel explaining how Scar and Mufasa became brothers and all that. Mufasa the Lion King. I want them to do a Timon and Pumbaa solo movie, even if it's like a 45-minute Disney Plus short. I'd love that. And I also want them to do a live action remake of Lion King 2, Simba's Pride, because I want them to introduce Kovu, which is Scar's, Kovu and Zero, which are Zero's Scar's sort of wife they had at one point, and Kovu is his son. Now, one thing I also like through the film is Zazu was kept British, which is what they've done for the other ones. In the original Lion King, Rowan Atkinson, who's a British actor, voiced Zazu, obviously famous for playing Blackadder in Blackadder TV show, but he's also voiced and played Mr. Bean in the animated Mr. Bean series, along with the live action series Mr. Bean series and the Mr. Bean movies, live action movies. Then he was live action remake. He was voiced by John Oliver, who has like a night talk show, I think in America, ironically, but he's British. And then in this Mufasa the Lion King, it was a different actor because it was showing the character younger, so it was a different actor, and it was still British. And the same with Scar. In the original Lion King, voiced by Jeremy Irons, who is a British actor, and he actually plays Alfred in the DCU with Ben Affleck's Batman, basically. The one for Ben Affleck's Batman. The DCEU, I should say, because DCU is the name of the new one that James Gunn is doing. Great. So yeah, I have also, and then they have also cast for the live action remake. It was Chiwetel Ejiofor, who is famous. He's been in a lot. He's been in, I think it was Love Actually, where he married Keira Knightley's character, or at least was going to. I don't know. I've forgotten. Haven't seen that in a while. But yeah. And he plays Mordo in Doctor Strange, and Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness. And he's recently been in Venom: The Last Dance as someone who we thought maybe is that a Mordo variant, but it wasn't. So he voiced Scar in the live action remake, but because it was him earlier, they didn't show any Scar when he was older, so they just had a new actor, which was also a British actor, or at least they put a British accent on, which was, I liked that. And also the obviously from the original Lion King and live action remake, when Scar basically digs into the claws of the scene where Mufasa's dying, he digs his claws into Mufasa's paw, and you see Mufasa roar in pain. Now that wasn't just because Scar was killing him. That's how he actually saved Mufasa before. That's how he's picked him up, because it showed him do that. Basically, the film showed him do that when when Taka, Scar, as he was named then, Taka, when he saved Mufasa like that. So yeah, but all in all, it was a good movie, and I did enjoy it. For that reason, I'm happy with giving it an 8 out of 10. I know a lot of people are slating it, but I personally think it's just overhated, to be honest. The original, but nothing beats the original Lion King whatsoever. So there you go. Also, I would just like to say for these videos, if I rate it higher than you think, if you say like, oh, you've rated one thing, say a 7 out of 10, but then you're rating another, something like a What If episode, 8 out of 10, 7 out of 10, 10 out of 10 or an 8 out of 10, when it doesn't deserve that. It's not that good when you're giving something which is which is a lot better, a lower mark, or the same mark, and it's like, yeah, a lot, you know. I can understand if you think that's totally get that, but at the same time, I am just gonna say this: I am not doing it because a lot of people are saying, oh, this wasn't as good as it was. I've said myself in the reviews for example with What If episodes, I've said, yes, admittedly, What If season 3 is the weaker season. I'll say that now, really. I haven't said that before, but yes, I will say this, and I will admit, season 3 of What If is the worst season of it all. 1 and 2 were really good, 3rd has been the worst, but it's still been enjoyable. But it's definitely been the worst out of the 3 seasons, yes. But as I've said before, you know, like, I personally think that the episodes are somewhat good, and for those of you who think I'm being too harsh on rating a movie or a series, or rating it too high, it's my personal what I personally think of it. I mean, anyone is allowed to think it's, say, worth a 10 out of 10 or a 2 out of 10. if you think it deserves a higher rating than I've given it, or a lower rating than I've given it, then that is your opinion. You've got, you're allowed to think that. I've got no problem with that, because it is a personal thing for each different people. But I feel that the episodes have been overhated. They're not as bad as people are saying as they are. But they aren't the best. I will say that, and I will admit that. I think the 3 best episodes of What If were the final 2 episodes and the Agatha one. They were the best, really. But because a lot of them, it did feel like that with What If, and then it's like the Western themed one and the one with Kate Bishop. Not sorry, that was the Western one. What If 1872, and I did like the ones I think were the best episodes were the last 2, the What If, the Emergence Destroyed the Earth, and the Agatha one. I think they were the best, whereas I think the others ones had potential, and the rest of them had potential. They could have been better, but they, like I've rated, that they were none less than 7 out of 10. That was the lowest mark I gave them. So, and most of them were either a 7 or an 8 out of 10. I gave 1 a 9 out of 10, and then 2 a 10 out of 10. But they definitely were. They're not worth, but in my opinion, less than a 7 out of 10. But again, it was my opinion. Same with the movies, the series, and different episodes of What If, for example, is my personal opinion. But at the same time, I'm not doing this to basically criticize the film itself, or like in general, no matter what rating I give it, because that is a personal choice. Like, these videos, they are not to criticize the movies themselves, or the companies that produced them, the cast. It's got nothing to do with that. It is just my personal thoughts of the movie. So I just want, if made anyone feel like I'm being too harsh on them, then I apologise that you feel that way, but it's personal for me. It is my personal preferences of this movie. It's like The Flash is a good example. It wasn't a great movie. I will sit here, I'm happy to admit it was a crap movie at best, and that's at best, but I enjoyed it personally, but that was only because of Michael Keaton's Batman in it. If he wasn't in it, I probably wouldn't have seen it, to be honest, but I have hopes for the new DCU, to be honest. Because Creature Commandos, which looks fairly good, to be fair, if that's not as good, I'm not as bothered as that for the rest of the DCU, because that was originally when James Gunn started to make that, he hadn't been elected as president or whatever of DC Studios, so back then DC's was still doing the DC extended universe, and that was what it was a part of. And then the changeover happened, so we basically had to change it over to the DCU, his new version. So yeah. Also, but Superman looks good. I mean, we've got a nice casting. I think the only one of the original Justice League characters has been kept, Jason Momoa, but he's not playing Aquaman, he's playing Lobo in Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, which would be cool. Superman looks promising, so I think just have it as it goes on. DCU does look promising. But my next video, I'll get into that now. My next video is I'm hoping for my next review to either be We Live in Time or Nosferatu, whatever I see first. Also, that all depends on when I get to go and see one of them as well. Because if Skeleton Crew on Disney Plus finishes before I've seen either of those movies. So if I haven't seen We Live in Time or Nosferatu, and Skeleton Crew has ended by then I will be annoyed. No, I won't be annoyed, but then I will be doing that first. So, but my next video is either going to be Nosferatu or We Live in Time, whatever one I see first, and then whatever one I don't see, I've also got to do that as well. And I've also got Skeleton Crew to come when it releases, and then also Creature Commandos, but because that's on Max, which is only a streaming service only available in the US. It comes onto Sky though for UK citizens, and my parents pay for Sky, so I have Sky to watch, but I've got to wait for Creature Commandos to come onto Sky before I watch it and review it. So I'm waiting. That's supposed to be around February though, so I wouldn't wait for that. But my main next reviews are going to be for Nosferatu or We Live in Time, whatever I see first, and Star Wars Skeleton Crew. So yeah. So just to recap, like I said, my next review will either be a movie review of Nosferatu or We Live in Time, whatever one I see first. Then once I've seen one, I'll see the other one, and also when it ends, Star Wars Skeleton Crew on Disney Plus. Once I'm back at college, I'll be able to sort of get around the gist of things, so I can go to the cinema more often, sort of, because I know that one day a week when I'm in college I finish earlier, so if there's a film on that I haven't seen that I want to see on that day, I'll use that day to go and see the film. But yeah, so that's how that works, and that will work. So they're my next things to review. Star Wars Skeleton Crew when it's over. I can't remember if I've said that in a recap or not, but yeah, if I have, sorry. If I haven't, you know now. And my rating of Mufasa the Lion King is an 8 out of 10. So thank you guys for watching, and goodbye.